Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Yard Sign. We appreciate you watching. Better late than never, as always. It's the most important. Hold on, let me. The both headphone thing is throwing me off. The most important and relevant podcast in politics. See, all kinds of stuff happening here. Sorry. Oh my goodness, it is a Monday for sure. Johnny Torres with you. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow on all of our social media platforms. We really appreciate it. We have a lot to talk about today, luckily some familiar faces, so we can kind of cut the introduction short and get right into the meat of today's show. As you can see there, for today's topics, we've got DeSantis, the vaccine victor. We'll talk about how well we're doing here in Florida and how we're ahead of schedule, ahead of the national schedule in terms of who's getting the vaccine. Georgia's voting bill strikes out. We'll talk about what's happening to our neighbors to the north and the hypocrisy there. The Piney Point disaster, we'll go a little local here as Manatee County finds itself under a huge health disaster. With some of the natural resources that are mined here locally and getting into the water system and whatnot. And then, of course, allegedly, Gaetz Got Got. We're going to talk about the Matt Gaetz drama and how that's playing out and see if it has any legs. So before we get into today's topics, let's go ahead and go to the main table. What's up, guys?
What's up?
All right, to my left, Joe Wicker. Next to him, Anibal David Cabrera. Again, no shortage of stuff to talk about. We had to trim it back a little bit. A lot of foreign stuff, which I know you wanted to get into, Anibal.
Oh, jeez.
We'll figure out where to sneak in Anibal's attic. We didn't exactly decide that beforehand. But again, we are going to start off with Governor DeSantis, kind of, again, on a roll.
Winning.
Yeah, exactly. With all this vaccine stuff, this COVID stuff, reducing the age, was it today, as of today?
16 and up with Pfizer, 18 and up with the other ones.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
All right. Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah. I mean, so wide open. I mean, basically it's wide open.
Pretty much, right.
Because I don't even think because I think the vaccine manufacturers, I think the lowest they had studied was like 12 and up or something.
Okay.
So I don't even think it's going to go all the way down to the kids for a while, but I'm not sure. But it's definitely wide open from an adult standpoint. So, I mean, at this point.
Well, because again, one of the things people have said that kids, are obviously not. Yeah. I mean, it's almost completely unnecessary. I mean,
but if you want it, you can get it now. Basically, if you want it, you can get it now.
Are you trying to deny children the vaccine?
They can go and get it. I mean, their parents may not let them get it.
Drive themselves to get it.
I just want to know, what are the teachers' unions going to say once the vaccine is available to every adult, which it already is now,
right?
And 16 and up, or kids. I mean, like, what are they going to say? Are they going to mandate the vaccine for all kids before school? Because the teachers' unions want to stay shut down, many of them.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just wondering if what they'll push for. Once COVID's kind of gone and the vaccine's working and it's widely distributed, are they then going to say, well, we want mandatory for, K through 12, everybody, and you have to have proof, just like all
they're going to continue to move the field goal. I mean, the goalposts. I mean, until we're now 2 years and with no schooling for these kids.
I mean, there's precedent. I mean, I remember the little yellow vaccine card that, you had for school. I mean, I went to K through 12 public, and I took that with me to the Army. So proud. I was like, oh, I got all my vaccines. And they were like, we don't care. That was a long time ago. But
you've told us before.
There's precedent. Why wouldn't they demand it be mandatory for all the kids?
Well, where's the precedent? Like how many of them, they were giving you what, like a half a dozen vaccines at one time?
When I went on active duty, I promise you, I took my yellow card, because I mean, who wants to get shots that you don't have to get, right?
Sure, right.
I took my little yellow card, and it was stamped from like the 80s and 90s, and they were like, no, you're in your 20s and you're getting them all again, and I got 4 in the right arm, 4 in the left arm, and 2 vials of blood. in one sitting.
But that's the
I mean,
military.
it was everything.
Because
Like,
you're
wow.
signing a piece of paper that basically
I'm
gives
just
them
saying,
control of your life.
So
there isn't really
The
precedent.
military is not public school.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I remember
Some places
I remember
in the country, it
having
feels like a war
having
zone.
the little yellow card, and I'm just saying there's precedent. I know people are all worked up about mandatory vaccinations right now, but there's precedent for that because you had to have them to go to school.
You still do.
You don't
You
know.
have
It's
to.
not a
Yeah, you have
it's
to
not
have
a
it.
mandate.
Well, again,
There are ways to
Don't
get
you
out
have
of
to-
it.
Don't you have to have it for K through 12 right now?
No, there's a way to get out of it.
Well, again,
it's
you have to
recommended.
pull-
It's recommended that
It's
you get the
recommended,
shots, but it's not
extremely rare.
mandated.
So it's extremely rare, basically.
Yeah, exactly, because
Every-
you have to pull
basically
religious
Half of
exemption.
California doesn't have the
Basically everybody
vaccine
has it.
in its system right now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because again, they're having to pull religious exemption, though.
Oh, okay.
They have to claim religious exemption for them not to have to get the vaccine.
Religious and scientific. There's a lot of ways to get out of having a vaccine.
So the only point is that I was just saying there's precedent for them to expect that it would be mandatory for attendance at public school. That's all I'm saying, is that there would be precedent there.
Again, you're able to exempt out of getting the flu. You're able to exempt out of a lot of things.
Yeah, but
even
the majority of
even
people
over
will not.
religious reasons.
The majority of people are just going to cave
Yeah.
because the government tells them to, and they're going to get it.
Well, you'll see
And
people
they're going
push.
to make their kids get
You'll
it.
see people push back, and I can't wait for those lawsuits to start flying around.
Well, hey, here's the thing, though. I mean, there's been so much homeschooling now. I mean, honestly, the people that are going to say, I'm not going to do that, they probably have a really good alternative. I mean, they probably either have already been homeschooling or already have virtual set up. I mean, they probably
Virtual
have,
is a joke, honestly.
probably
Virtual is a joke for a large percentage of the population. A lot of kids are just not showing up to school, and that's a bigger conversation that's going to have. So I'm glad
I got
that
through college that way. I don't
Well,
see
you
what
still
the
need
problem is.
parental
I'm glad the
involvement,
I'm-
even if you're virtual.
yeah.
I mean,
No,
especially if you're talking about a kid who's probably 8 and under, they still
Yeah.
need that parent who's
Yeah.
sitting next to them,
Yeah.
helping them through the lessons.
I'm telling you, that's not none of that's happening.
Yeah,
None of that's happening.
I wouldn't have made it through school or college if things would have been online. I just wouldn't have. Probably wouldn't have.
Well, I want to say when it comes to the governor and the conversation that we're this topic right here, 60 Minutes did a pretty like opinionated, hard-hitting deep dive when it came to Governor DeSantis. And I have to tell you right now, it's about a 7-minute long video on YouTube, part 1 and part 2. My blood has never boiled faster in an interview in my
That's
life.
about 2024, bro. Or excuse me, that's
Yeah.
about 2022.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
About 2022 and 2024.
They're
That's what that's
they're
about.
desperately trying to find something to pin on the governor. They were talking about the reporter was like, "Oh, is Publix paying to play?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And they're
Right.
talking about
They have a pharmacy.
Which he's already refuted.
They
Yes.
have a pharmacy. So therefore, we allow pharmacists
Yeah.
to give the shot.
This
Well,
is
not
the
only
South.
that, they
Publix
were-
is
they were
They
so
third.
much.
have a
Yeah.
pharmacy. Yeah, they
After
weren't even
CVS
first.
and Walgreens.
Yeah, they weren't even first.
And
Yeah.
that's the upsetting part of this
Maybe fourth, I
conversation.
think Walmart's
That
doing
when
it
you're because now Walmart is doing it. When you watch the interview and you watch the tape from 60 Minutes, you're like, but you're omitting valuable information. One, Publix wasn't the first one; it was Walgreens and
Right.
CVS. Two, the example that you're giving is from a county. You should be asking the county administrators why that one city outside of West Palm Beach was not given the same access ability than others. Are you asking the governor to be responsible to know every single nook and cranny?
Well, that this is basically a favor that was called in.
Yes.
So there was some politico, some elected official. It could have been Nikki Fried. I mean, she's a statewide elected official. How easy is it
Yeah.
for somebody that prominent in the political process to call CBS and say, look, you guys need to do a story on this, because we're getting killed down here in Florida, and 2022 is looking really bad.
We meaning the Democrats. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
it was a hit job.
It was a hit job.
because the so this is about 2022 that when Governor DeSantis, as
What
he
was I
would
saying?
pronounce it, well,
I called DeSantis.
like most Southerners, like me, I would say DeSantis, whatever. But every time I hear him pronounce his name, he says DeSantis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, listen to him say his name. I mean, he tries to clarify it for you, but hey, look,
We're trying to throw some accents
good
in
luck
there.
in the panhandle. Good luck in the panhandle.
I want a
DeSantis.
hyphen.
You're
I want to put a
gonna be
hyphen somewhere.
DeSantis. You're going to be DeSantis.
DeSantis.
And
Put the accent over the I.
That's a good point.
DeSantis.
DeSantis. Oh, I like that one.
Is it Spanish? I wonder. Like original, like
It's probably
Portuguese?
Italian.
It's probably, yeah, I would say
Portuguese or something like that.
Hector, I know you're watching. Please do the research to find
Is
out
it
what the
Portuguese,
lineage
Italian?
for our
What
governor
is it?
DeSantis.
No, but
DeSantis.
here's the bottom line. 2022 is coming around the bend. Governor DeSantis is probably going to get reelected.
Yeah.
And Florida's doing well compared to all the other states, okay? And when it comes to COVID response and vaccination, we're actually doing well. The media and the Democrats need Republicans to fail. So they're running with this crap piece with 60 Minutes, which is really shameful because I think a lot of people watch 60 Minutes and think that this is like a deep dive, legitimate, expose, right?
The
like
last bastion of true journalism.
I've watched some 60-minute programs, and you kind of feel like it's like a legit view of what's
fair
going
and
on.
balanced and just giving you the information.
But because we're in Florida and maybe we just have the access easier available, whatever, to get to us. We're looking at this and we're saying this doesn't make sense because today or yesterday, one of the elected officials or one of the county officials in Manatee County wrote a letter and said, "Hey, listen, we asked for this. This isn't a hookup. The governor is not hooking us up.
It wasn't even their idea.
Like we're asking. We asked for them to come down and help us do this because we wanted to have more access. And like you've already pointed out, Publix wasn't even first to the game. They didn't get in ahead of the line. They're not making more money than they would have otherwise made simply because they contribute to political campaigns. The Democrats want to do two things. They want to somehow make people think that Florida's not doing well so that DeSantis can somehow suffer electorally. And second, they want to suppress the political contributions that corporations give to anybody other than themselves. Because let's not act like corporations don't give to Democrats, because they do in a major major way.
And most of the time they're giving down the middle.
Most of the time it's down the middle, a check to you and a check to you, so you'll both leave me alone.
Right.
That's basically what corporations do.
They're just hedging their bets.
But a Florida corporation like Publix, based in Lakeland, they're going to be a little more connected to Republicans because they're surrounded by Republicans.
It's a red county. Yeah.
Red county and a red state.
So this is what Public said earlier. Doing our part is the irresponsible suggestion that there was a connection between campaign contributions made to Governor DeSantis and our willingness to join other pharmacies in support of the state's vaccine distribution efforts is absolutely false and offensive. We are proud of our pharmacy associates for administrating more than 1.5 million doses of the vaccine to date and joining the other retailers in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia to do our part to help our community emerge from the pandemic.
Right.
So that was a very strong response from Publix. So I'm not surprised at all that this has become such a big deal now in regards to that one interview, not even interview, that one expose hit piece. Because the other thing that I thought was very troubling, the moment she said it out loud, she's like, well, people, yes, we're over the age of 70, we're going to get the vaccine. And then DeSantis made sure that anyone over the age of 65 will get it first, before first responders and teachers. I'm like, whoever is dying first of all, we're the
most vulnerable of our population.
We're the third largest state in the union. We are practically the number one state for anyone over the age of 65, besides the 27 people in Maine. And so you automatically know that we have to focus on our elderly population. Joe, do you know on the top of your head how many people over the age of 65 live in the state of Florida?
I don't, but it's a higher percentage, like you said, than the other states.
Yeah.
So we have 26 million people.
But see, this is the thing, because State Representative Carlos Smith, went on Twitter and just ranting as he always does, and trying to make a case out of the fact that Governor DeSantis has not had his vaccine yet, right? And that he should be leading by example.
He said why.
But the minute
he told why.
Right. Well, and the minute he does it, then they're going to attack him for getting the vaccine and jumping the line and trying to get preferential treatment.
20% of Floridians are age 65 and older.
Yeah.
That's a huge percentage.
Well, and the thing is that, again, they were going to criticize him no matter what he did.
No matter what.
But going back to...
In the beginning, they asked him that, and he said, I'm not going to get the vaccine while there's seniors waiting to get the vaccine. And he waited,
And the thing is that I think especially for Democrats, strategically, right? Now taking off my Republican hat, like how stupid do you have to be to attack the largest employer in the state of Florida, okay, and possibly the largest corporate donor in the state of Florida, right before an election, right before a statewide election? And so I don't understand their strategy here, and maybe they're getting cocky because they're getting that Bloomberg money, but it makes no sense to me. Why would you attack one of the largest employers in Florida, especially given how many people they employ, right? I mean, all that kind of stuff. I mean, if somebody was on television attacking my employer, I would take that personally.
Short-term thinking, right? Short-term thinking. I mean, in politics, 2 months is like 2 years. So by the time the election rolls around,
you could put it to where they're just trying to throw anything at him to see what sticks. And the fact that he was able to respond so quickly to the reporters when they were being questioned. I'm to the point to where if I see a camera is pointed to the reporter asking the questions and not the person that they're asking questions to, I automatically think this is a hit job of some kind, because they want to see the argument back and forth. They don't care about the answer. They just want to see the drama that this creates when you have a reporter being very attackish and a responder being defensive at the whole time. So I applaud the governor for holding his own, being able to take these punches, and they're just giving more fodder for him to become president.
What's annoying to me is that for COVID, for people to die and for COVID to be spreading and not reducing in the spread, I should say, for infections to be up, for deaths to be up, for the vaccine to be not doing well, for distribution to be slow, all of those things benefit a political party. And that's what's sad, is that it's almost like the media and the Democrats are trying to find the negativity. Let's find out how Florida's not doing great when we are doing great. Let's find out how the vaccine's distribution's not working when it is working. Let's find out how somehow COVID spikes are happening when they're not happening. I mean, and it's been like this for really a solid. Well, it's been like this from the whole since the beginning, because Trump was in office.
To that point,
now
what are they
it's not national, now it's local. They're not going to criticize Biden. It's no longer about the nation. It's now about the states.
Well, to your point, what is nobody talking about right now in regards to COVID? Spring break. There's a hotel general manager that I talk to on a weekly basis, who said that for the past 3 months they had hit record numbers. Okay, this is in the middle of coming out of a recession.
Of people,
you know what I mean? Like their restaurant, their hotel stays, their revenue is breaking records. Okay.
Wow.
And
that's exciting.
It's incredible, right?
So I should be in the
got
restaurant
an employment
business.
shortage.
I thought the restaurant and hotel business was a dangerous business to be in.
It is a dangerous business to be in.
Well, they've been hurting for most of the past year, but I mean, when you talk about COVID and you talk about being careless and you talk about these open states, right? How they've tried to demonize the states that have opened up completely. The science, which they want us to follow, has proven that nothing's going to happen. You're not going to see these spikes. This is obviously not caused.
Outside,
This flu, this virus is obviously not being contracted in the way they think it is.
Well, they just, in the beginning, it was anybody that gathered was shamed. And so even gathering on an outside, in an open air park, you shouldn't be with groups of people.
During the day.
It didn't matter. On the beach, the water, in the water. You can't be in the water.
Well, there's that famous video of a surfer getting arrested
the surfer
in California.
And I think everybody kind of knows, even if you're a Democrat, a liberal, even if you're as woke can be, everybody kind of knows that, like, of all the places that you probably could be safe, it would be like at an outdoor park or like riding your mountain bike by yourself. Like, of all the places that you probably should be going, it would probably be one of those. And yet we, like idiots, we kept pushing the whole stay indoors, save lives. And I really think that we're going to look back and say to ourselves, we should have been telling people to get outdoors. And not stay indoors. We should have been telling people, hey, while your work is shut down or while we're shutting down, go get some exercise.
Right.
Get out and about. Get away from each other.
Yeah.
Don't hang out in crowds.
Work in open air
But
spaces.
be
Don't
open.
work in closed
Open your
spaces.
windows. Turn
Yeah.
the fans on. Like let's get some
Sure.
fresh air in here, which is what everyone's grandmother could have told them if they would have asked.
Joe Rogan has been pushing that for the whole time now.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has been pushing that people should be outside, people should be getting their daily dose of vitamin D. They're not taking their vitamins, they're not exercising, and that's causing a lot of the bigger problems at hand. And so he had a guest on that said that the government is basically trying to make you unemployed, unhealthy, and non-social. And like those things really do detriment to society and
because
to a community.
Well, it makes you
The more you-
dependent.
it
makes you dependent on the government.
Of
Yeah.
course, they're
Yeah.
alienating you.
Yeah.
They're alienating you from your family, from your friends, from your social circles. And so who else are you going to lean on? The government,
Yeah,
right?
and so this is really, again, every time you see something like this, it just pisses off Floridians
Yeah.
more and more and more. We've done our part. We've made sure that we're not getting grandma sick. We're making sure that she is home and safe, or she's in front of the line, making sure she gets the vaccine. And now you have it that they're constantly attacking Floridians and how inappropriate Floridians are and how unsafe Floridians are. When you go up north, you're like, you guys are just as bad or even worse now that you guys have not yet to keep it together. And you guys have been shut down this entire time. Florida's been open since what, July
Right.
of last year,
Coming
and
up
the
on a year,
world,
yeah.
and the world falls apart when Texas reopens. It's just,
Yeah.
it's absolutely insane, and it's hypocritical the way they are working.
Well, and to kind of bring it on to a personal level, so I have family in Colombia in South America, and they've been under strict lockdown orders.
Right.
You know, and it's ebbed and flowed, right? But right now they're going through their third spike.
Yeah.
Their third spike.
After
And then
all
they
the
continue
shutdown.
to put in
Yeah.
the same policies time
Right.
after time. And so they're basically repeating the very factors that are probably causing the spikes in the first place.
Yeah, it's so odd. It's so odd like that. It's like when you look, I saw a chart the other day that was tracking infection rates among mask mandate states and non-mask mandate. I mean, there's just no difference.
Right.
Yeah.
There's really no difference. And then when you look at some other metrics, you know, just who was locked down versus who wasn't locked down, who was mask mandate, who was not mask mandate. When you look at all these things, you know, it's like you don't really see a major difference in the data. So then you're left saying to yourself, all this stuff that we did, I'm not saying it was for nothing, but like it didn't end up being what we thought.
Yeah.
And
Again, I think we can all agree the first few months of this, I think because we didn't know how severe or how difficult or how dangerous it was. That I got the first month or two, first month. And then when it prolonged, we're at number 27 extension of the 2-week lockdown in some states, that it didn't make any sense. And it still doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Remember those pictures that this was going around the internet a while back. It was the of the pandemic or whatever in 1918, the Spanish flu, and they had these pictures of all these. And granted, hospital situations were a lot different back then, but basically you had all these cots and these tents, and they're all outside. And I understand they were dealing with overflow stuff. I'm sure buildings may have been full, but like they were like literally pushing patients outside and saying, get sun, get fresh air, like, because what else are we going to do, right?
Yeah.
Like keep you all locked up where everybody's getting sick from each other. Like the best thing we can do is put you outside. I mean, it's just weird that it seems like the common sense things that we did because we lacked technology, so we had to rely on common sense, you know? It's like that was the methodology, and now we throw that out and we're looking for a Dr. Fauci to tell us what to do.
Well, I think it's one of those
on
things
TV.
where it's like, oh, that was so long ago. There must be a
It
better
couldn't-
way.
it couldn't
There must be a better
work.
way. And
Yeah.
there's no way they
Yeah,
were smarter
that's
than we
right,
were.
That's
No
right.
way.
That's
There's
right.
no way that
No
they're
way.
smarter
That's
than
right.
we
That's
are.
right. Listen to your grandmother.
yeah.
Grandma said, go outside, get some fresh air, get some sun. It'll be good for you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, again, for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Don't forget to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast over at the Tech Overlords at Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. All right. You can listen to the audio version there. Take it wherever you want to go. Now, if you want to see our lovely faces, you can also find previous episodes on YouTube and Facebook video. All right. So just go to our Facebook page or our YouTube account. You can find all of our previous episodes there as well. Let's go on to our second topic of the day, which is the big strikeout. Major League Baseball pulling the All-Star game from Georgia. Part of the fallout from their voting bill that they passed recently. And of course, everybody's chimed in on this. And it's been really fun to watch, you know, some of the hypocrisy that's been called out on behalf of Major League Baseball, because the ironic thing, and maybe it's intentional, right? If you're a good PR person, this is probably totally intentional, but they just renewed some sort of contract with China.
Yeah.
And the irony that they're talking about voter rights or human rights suppression, criticizing Georgia, and at the same time renewing a deal with China. I mean, again, the irony is just too obvious there. Do they not see it, or is it intentional to overshadow one storyline with the other?
I understand that a company or an individual, can't change make change everywhere, right? I mean, like if you're just a person buying iPhones, you can't necessarily change the fact that some of the people in China that might make a component of the iPhone may not have the best working conditions. Like I don't blame everybody for being consumers and not being able to control that. But when you're a major corporation or when you're a government, and when I say major corporation, I mean we're talking Apple, or big time, or when you're somebody like the MLB that has a monopoly, like literally like a legislative monopoly, nobody can really compete with you.
Which we'll touch on, because
when
that's
you have
actually
that
come
circumstance,
up.
when you are in that type of position, that's when it's a problem. When you come out and denounce things that, first of all, they don't even know what they're talking about. I guarantee you that nobody in PR even read the Georgia bill.
Well, that's the thing. How do their government relations people not educate them on this?
You would think so. They talk about that, but then they do business with countries like China who are communist and literally have people in concentration camps right now.
Right.
And I would just use this opportunity to remind all of us, we said never again.
We said never again.
We said never again. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's time to go to blows, but we said never again. So what does that mean? And it ought to be in the UN. But setting that aside, though, what Johnny was saying is that the corporations all have in-house lobbyists, right? Government affairs who work with lobbyists on Capitol Hill or in the states, right? And those government affairs people are typically a part of this conversation.
Right.
They're working with the PR people, helping them put out a press release to deal with this issue because it involves government.
Yeah.
I think what's happening is a good government relations person is probably going to say, well, the bill's working its way through the legislature. We're watching it. We're making our voice heard as to what we, would like to see and whatnot. We've contacted some legislators or whatever and gotten some feedback. But we'll wait and see. I think the companies, because you got to think, they're not super political. They're really not. They're businesses. They don't really care one way or the other. Democrat, Republican, write a check to both. I don't care, right? That's the way most businesses think. I think a lot of these businesses at the end of the day sit here with, they've got a small group of employees or activists that are giving them heat, and they think, all right, let's be against this, put out a statement.
It's the social media pressure, right?
Yeah. Well, and so they think to themselves, and probably amongst leadership, just make a quick decision, hey, let's put out a letter, and the PR people are right there ready to tell you to apologize, right?
Yeah.
Just say you're against it, make this go away so we can move on to our new product launch that we're trying to focus on. Right. And the corporations think that a quick statement and denouncing something can make this all go away. But then you create a backlash from all those other people that are like, what? Why are you apologizing? Why is Coke involved? Why is baseball telling me what to do? Like, this is stupid. And I just think it creates a whole big backlash.
Why are you taking jobs away from Georgia citizens? Like, that's the bigger backlash
businesses
that's
need
hitting
to
right
stay
now.
out. Stay out of politics. Keep your business out of politics.
Well, the biggest, kind of amusing point in all of this is that they've pulled the All-Star game, right?
Yeah, which hurts a Democratic-led city.
Yeah, they're saying that it's going to cost them, or they're going to lose out on about $100 million. Okay?
Cobb County.
Right?
Yeah, Cobb County that voted for Joe Biden. Yeah.
But if Major League Baseball truly had such an issue with this, why not pull the whole season? Tell the Braves, hey, we're not cool with this. Let's move you to.
See, now you're messing with other people's money. See, now you're messing. Now you're messing with other people's money, and
but
they're
let's
not
say,
going to
hey,
allow that.
let's move them. Well, they'll never move them to Alabama. That's for sure. But let's say, hey, let's move them to Wisconsin, or let's move them to some state where they don't have a Major League Baseball team for the season to make a point, right? But to pull the All-Star game, I mean, really, it's like they honestly could care less because they haven't invested anything into it.
Right.
Only the city of Atlanta has.
And that's a bigger problem. So Kimberly Davis Hi, glad that you made it home. Saying that she thinks that the MLB missed a large opportunity to say that we are America's pastime, and we are going to bring America together.
Yep.
I think that's a great point to make. That MLB could have been that niche of like, okay, let's figure this out and move forward. And again, you're hearing the craziness on some CNN and MSNBC reporting that this is going to stop people from voting and everything else, and they're just talking about some of the limitations. I'm sorry, if I can't grab my tickets without an ID to go to a baseball game at your stadium, then I should be able to show ID to vote. I don't understand how that is such a difficult concept.
You need an ID to check out a book at the library.
Yeah.
I mean, the most menial things that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays, even if you want to buy some cough syrup, all right? If I want to go to the drugstore and buy Sudafed, right? Now I need to show my ID.
Yeah.
Is that racist?
Evidently it is.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for that conversation.
It would be if it could get somebody votes, yeah.
Now what I love is, and I used to be a Chris Christie fan, like early, when he came out, and he was he was the pre-Trump, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he would come out and he would just destroy people on media.
Yeah, that's right. He was the pre-Trump. That's right.
And I think he was probably a good litmus test for Trump.
Yeah.
Because he really went toe to toe with the media.
He got him elected.
Right. Yeah.
He got away with it.
Yeah, and so Chris Christie is now kind of come back into the fray on television, and he's doing some TV interviews. And what's funny is that he mentions that Stacey Abrams, on the same day that all this is going down in Georgia, is in New Jersey, praising the election reforms in New Jersey, and bragging about how now they have 9 days of early voting in New Jersey. Meanwhile, Georgia has 17.
Right.
And
they expanded the number of days.
And so where is the oppression here? And
so what they're saying is the impression is that it's cutting the time to require for absentee ballots. It's reducing drop box access, which I think is a farce. Like, again, if you don't want to get out,
a security issue.
If you don't want to get out of your car to give someone the ballot,
we don't have
get
those
it.
Here in Florida.
But I don't think we have that ability.
No.
You have to go to a precinct.
You can drop it off at a precinct.
Right. They had
but you still have to show your ID.
Yeah, they had contactless.
Yeah, and you still have to show your ID.
It was at the
You should have to show your ID.
Yeah.
Shortens the time frame for runoffs. Makes it a crime to give food and water to voters while waiting in line. In Florida, if you're a part of a campaign or any kind of organization, you can't you can't go anywhere near that door.
You can't talk to voters. You can't give them nothing. You can't do nothing.
You can give them a slate card of where you're going, or what you want them to vote.
100 feet out.
It has to be 100 feet out.
Yeah.
Right.
We know this already. Again, we went through this in the 90s into early 2000s. There's a chalk or some kind of identifying item that tells you, okay, from here going forward, you're allowed to talk to people, but before then, you'll get kicked out of the center.
This goes to these types of things play on people's
emotions.
They definitely play on people's emotions. They also play on the general electorate's lack of understanding of the election laws. And hey, look, when you get into campaigns, it's kind of confusing to figure out the finance rules and the election laws and everything. But this is designed to stop campaigns and other groups, not even the campaigns really, it's all these other outside groups, to stop them from messing with you when you're voting. And I know from when I've been at polls and sign waving or as the candidate themselves at a poll, outside of that distance, I notice a lot of voters, they come in and they've almost got blinders on.
Sure.
They're walking in. They're not paying attention to the people waving signs.
They might take something.
They might. But I think in general, and this is all voters. It doesn't matter what their party is. I think most people want to be left alone.
Yeah.
They want to go. They want to do their civic duty. They want to be left the hell alone. And so they're pushing this like, oh, they won't even give them water. They're making these people stand in line for 36 hours straight with no water. Give me a break, guys. Like you can't be messing with them. They can get food and water and everything else across the street.
Well, and if it's that much of a health concern for you, to be standing in line for a long period of time without food and water, then bring food and water.
Then bring food and water.
Or do absentee voting.
Or do absentee voting. Or then you would I think they have also some special provision for handicapped or something
Sure,
like
of
that.
course. Yeah.
So I think they have another provision. So the point is that this is a non-issue that's being made to be an issue because they're trying to paint the picture that they're starving poor voters just waiting and just dying of thirst in line, and that they don't want to, anyway.
Yeah,
It's
Miss
just-
Well,
Miss
and
it's
what's
just-
been fun has also been for those of you who are on Twitter, go back and look at some of the exchanges or responses from Governor Kemp, to the governor of New Jersey, who's bragging about his 9 days of early voting.
Yeah. What's frustrating to me though is I saw some smart people. I'm not gonna put them out there, obviously. Some smart people that I know mean well.
He's sitting right next to you.
That posted on Facebook. No, this is somebody else. That posted on Facebook, bashing this Georgia law. And I already knew in my gut. I just knew because of the way things go and the way legislation is complicated. It's, I just knew. I was like, I don't know exactly how he's wrong yet, but I'm pretty positive he's wrong. and has no idea because he's going off, I think it was a CNN article. And I was like, come on, this can't be.
You can't do
this,
that.
This can't be
You can't do
right.
that.
Right.
And sure enough, you go get the legislation and you realize, oh, not only are they not cutting days, they expanded the number of days.
Sure.
And that's why when we had this conversation a few weeks ago, we were very hesitant of we have no idea what's going to come out of committee.
You were hesitant.
Yeah, because I didn't
wasn't
know.
concerned at all.
Did you read the whole report and
I
had
just
no
wasn't
idea?
concerned because I just knew that nobody was out there targeting people. I mean, the articles that people are on social media saying that some of the law is targeting districts and communities based on color. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right.
That would be the easiest thing to sue over. Are you
Correct.
kidding me? There's no way that election law is in the purview of the state legislatures constitutionally.
Yep.
So when the state legislature passes an election law, they might be able to say something like, hey, per capita, you need to have this much space available or, whatever, and do things like that. But they can't literally say, in these zip codes,
Right.
you can't go on Sunday. But on these zip codes, they
Well,
can't do
one of the
that.
big things that Ms. Davis was talking about, that the talking point for the drop box were being removed in targeted neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That was the biggest problem with the drop boxes.
Sure.
They were being
And drop box are
advocated to a
security.
certain area
You have to
just
man
for them
a
to be
drop-
able to add more votes in that particular targeted area. And
You
now,
have to post
yes,
security.
you
on a
have to
drop box.
organize
Yeah.
that. You
I
have
mean,
to
a drop
organize
box, if your ballot's going in there, that thing becomes like an ATM.
Right.
I mean, that thing has got to be under lock and
Better
key.
be just as secure.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Bolted to the ground.
Right.
The door opens and you can't put your hand in. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, that's got to be
But that's the
super
thing, though,
secure.
if you're willing to do that with drop boxes, then what is the point of having people take the ID and the security, everything
The
else?
reason why
there
people-
really is no reason.
Okay, well, the reason
and that's
why-
the upsetting part when it came to drop boxes. It made no sense to have drop boxes. If you could just drive
People
to
want
a
drop
precinct-
boxes because it's a way to avoid
Yes.
the ID requirement,
Yes.
and it's a way to stuff back. I mean, it's a
Yes.
stuffing of the box, literally.
Right.
Because then
There's no verification.
Because there's no
no
verification
verification.
at point of receipt, and for the people that want to steal elections and Democrats, they know that if there's something that if you're gonna do something shady, it has to happen in the beginning when the ballot's received. Because once the ballot is, you got to get through that process.
Yeah.
Right.
Because once the ballot's received, and separated. Once it's open and separated, that ballot can no longer be tied to the individual. So even if you found out that the individual was dead, you would not know who they voted for. So
Right.
you can't remedy the situation. And that's what no one understands about voter integrity. If you don't catch someone cheating before they cheat, it's too late.
Right.
Once the ballot's in and opened, it's too late.
And that was the crazy
gonna
conversations
count.
that were coming out of Pennsylvania, that some counties hadn't purged their voter registration list in years.
Right.
And you're telling me that
Yeah.
these people, and you would do a quick Excel spreadsheet search filter, you're telling me you have 1,200 people
And there's no
over the
remedy.
age of 115? This
Yeah.
makes absolutely no sense.
Or
Don't get-
16 people that live in one address that
Yes.
voted, and it's like, okay, it's a warehouse. I'm pretty sure
Okay,
16 people don't live there.
Exactly. It's not difficult to really, if you do
Right.
some filters, you're going to see very quickly anomalies, or I'm almost positive that place burned down, things like that.
But the problem is that because our ballots are secret, as they should be,
As they should be.
the problem is that once it's open and separate from the envelope,
Yes.
no one knows whose ballot that is, and it gets counted, and there's no remedy to the problem, and that's the problem.
So Hector Gonzalez is talking about how in the country of Puerto Rico, I don't even know what the classification is anymore. It's most corruption state level government in the United States. It also gives people a, what does he call it? They issue a state-issued electoral ID
they do.
in Puerto Rico for you to be able to vote. Again, it's.
And you have to go to that area to vote. Like it doesn't
Right.
even matter where you live anymore.
Yeah.
Like you have to go there to vote.
You're
If
assigned
that's
to
what-
that location.
Yeah, you're assigned to that location. That's where you have to go to vote. And they have stricter election laws. And I believe that in Puerto Rico, they post up police officers, and they have 100% chain of custody. When a ballot box moves, it moves with a police officer.
And this is also
Which is common sense.
Yeah,
Sure.
But
Which is
remember,
common
the
sense.
police are probably stuffing the ballots to begin with. So at the end of the day, it never leaves
In
your
Iraq,
sight.
they dip your finger in purple ink, and that worked.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And look how they're working now.
All right. Thank you again, everybody, for watching The Yard Sign, the most important, relevant podcast in politics. Joining me today, Joe Wicker, Anibal David Cabrera. We have a lot to talk about. We've already covered quite a bit. We're on our third topic of the day, and this one hits home quite a little bit because just south of here, I would say about 40 minutes away, we have the Piney Point disaster. And so what a lot of people don't know is that phosphorus is actually a huge byproduct of what's excavated out in the ground here in Florida, and we have gypsum companies and Mosaic, and that again, this is basically you see these big mountains, and people think they're trash mountains, and they're not.
Right.
They're these gypsum mountains because it's what's left, when they are trying to grab this phosphorus, which they make for agricultural use and a lot of other stuff, and so
drywall, I think.
right,
It's
yeah,
made for
drywall, yeah. And so I guess this facility has been in disarray for quite some time. And now I believe, Nebel, you were telling me right before the show, there's a second leak. But this is going to be a huge health disaster. And look, and if you know anything about Manatee County, it's weird because you have Manatee County and Sarasota County who kind of got their act together, and they're pretty well run, politically, and then in the middle, you've got Manatee County, which is like, it's a very rural, it's very industrial, agricultural.
Very rural.
And
You were saying Manatee County. You're talking about Hillsborough and Sarasota?
no, well, I'm saying Hillsborough and Sarasota County are very well run. I think they're
And
very,
then- and then
and
you're
then in the
saying
middle,
Manatee
you've got like this anomaly.
County.
Manatee County again doesn't have a lot of tax revenue. It's very small town politics. Small population, very industrial, agricultural, rural, right?
Yep. A lot of old people.
Right. So again, they're kind of like forgotten about. It's kind of like a drive-through county. You don't really stop in Bradenton for just about anything.
That's not true. They have some good home cooking in Bradenton. There's some actually really good restaurants there. Amish are there. They have the style fried chicken. That's a good one.
Yeah, but it's one of
there a few
these.
times.
It's areas that right now it's going through huge growth.
Oh no! At the moment, it's a little over 400,000 people living there. Yeah.
Because
it's
geographically
Tampa
it's
Bay,
so
yeah.
well placed.
Yeah.
Between Pinellas, Sarasota, and Hillsborough County.
Yeah.
But obviously, I mean, they need to get their acts together.
Could you imagine if we had a ferry that went from Manatee to like Tampa or something?
Why?
Wouldn't that be like a huge boon for like that?
For them.
Wouldn't you like move there and
They
live
can't
there?
even
Oh, yeah.
organize a ferry from
That's like
Apollo
where you
Beach
would-
to downtown Tampa or McDill.
Because Hillsborough doesn't want it. But what if
A real
Manatee-
ferry.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
This
actual
little
ferry.
tourism.
a real ferry from Manatee
Distraction.
to Tampa. Like they would, like it would be huge.
Yeah.
Like people, you would just move there.
Well, right now they're having a
avoid-
huge explosion in real estate
Yeah.
because even Hillsborough is now starting to creep out of the affordable range.
Yeah.
And then geographically, St. Petersburg is already expensive to live in.
Yeah.
So if you want a new house in a nice neighborhood,
Yeah, that's
Manatee
right.
County makes all the sense because then you just jump a few bridges and you're in Pinellas for work.
Yeah, I will say this. I if you go to Apollo Beach or you're down there, you see those huge mountains of water and of untreated
Mountains
water.
of water?
Yes, mountains
Yeah.
of water. And so it's very interesting. I mean, I am a little concerned about that particular one. They say that a new hole has sprung in the lining of the plastic, so God only knows how much longer it is until that thing collapses. They're doing their best to drain it. I think 30,000 gallons of water are being drained a day right now to try to relieve some pressure when it comes to that particular facility. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the governor's already said that they're going to make sure that the owners of that facility are going to pay for the damages that are occurring right now.
So in that video that you posted in the group, the lady later in the video, the news reporter said that the water that was being released was in fact safe for discharge into.
It's not radioactive.
Salt that's not radioactive.
But the EPA says it's below the level that would require them not to put it into the bay.
I'm trying to think of what the term is, but basically, I don't want to use the word safe, but they basically said that it's within the threshold of release into the bay.
Yeah.
But then the issue would be algae blooms and fish kill off. But so I, not being an environmental, science person, I don't know how you balance that. But basically, it sounded like she said, not radioactive, not going to kill people, but is going to cause problems. And so therefore, yes, it can be released, but we're going to have the side effect of some fish kills and some bacteria.
This is going to require a lot.
Some algae blooms.
Also, I saw I think it wasn't that one, it was another one that talked about, well, now that we're talking about infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with
when I heard somebody say something about, when I heard somebody say something about radioactive, I was like, whoa, hold on a second. I was like, what is happening? So they mine for this? And I think a lot of Floridians are like learning about this more now. They're like, so let me get this straight. So they drill for it. Then there's byproduct from that. The water's sitting on top. And now the water's leaking. Okay, I got that piece. You're telling me it's what? It's radio what? And that's where I think people started freaking out because they did an evacuation of the area, and then they said
300 plus people were evacuated.
and then they said they were evacuating the workers. Like they tried to fill it with rock and dirt, didn't happen. So now they're just trying to discharge enough into the bay
to
relieve the pressure to prevent a total collapse.
They were talking about if there was a total collapse, it would be like a 20-foot wave just spreading out to that part of the community. And I think they also had to remove there's a jail out there also as well. So it's fascinating to see what's happening. Some people are talking about how it's not going to kill people right now in regards to what they're talking about. So I mean, we have these mines in Hillsborough next to Gibsonton and Riverview. So it's a legitimate thing. You see it from the bay. So it's a huge.
Well, it's another reason not to go swimming in the bay.
No, I mean, I would. Right, if you're unwilling to go swimming in the Hudson, you should not be going swimming in the bay. No.
Well, between the discharges that happen over in St. Petersburg, with their sewage treatment issues, and even Hillsborough does it from time to time too. And so, I mean, I don't know how the people on Redneck Beach over there on Gandhi, just trick themselves into thinking that it's okay to get in that water.
None of those people. What Benty Davis, I think it's called, that beach?
That's the one in Apollo Beach.
No. Benty Davis.
It's right there on the bridge.
On the causeway.
Right there
that's right.
I don't know how people go into that water.
You're talking about Courtney Campbell?
Yes. I don't know how people go in that water. Like, I've been there at night after going out.
By Whiskey Joe's and all that?
Yes.
That's bad water to go into?
I mean, I've seen it glow before. So.
Oh, God.
Come on.
No, I have. I've seen the algae.
If you're swimming,
you have the algae bloom.
If you're swimming and you see fish belly up, okay, it's time to get out of the water.
Right. Well, you can tell those are not Floridians because you were just kept like another 20 minutes.
No, it's all well, it's the visitors. I mean, people are like, where should we go to eat? Whiskey Joe's, and
there's a beach. Let's go
there.
There's
a beach there.
I would never go into that water.
Never.
It's not gonna happen. I need a pool.
Well, especially how landlocked some of that water is, right? Yeah. By 60 and 275, and some of that water doesn't move a whole lot.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not. Read the comment section if you want to see what's going on. But because they're talking about Benty Davis, they're talking about that some parts of the bay have.
Hector, you shouldn't even say stuff like that. That's wrong.
I'm not saying that out loud. I'm not saying that out loud.
Well, and just to let everybody know, I mean, it is kind of an all hands on deck situation. Yes. I mean, Senator Rubio's in town. He's been asked about it. Obviously, I'm sure that he and Governor/Senator Scott are gonna do whatever they can in terms of federal resources, to bring that to the state.
It was classified as a state of emergency in Manatee area. And
right.
So,
well, there's also
the prisoners weren't evacuated. They were moved to the second floor of the jail.
There's got to be, there's like 3 or 4 people in the entire country that have like PhDs in something around phosphate and mining.
Of course.
There's like a couple people that probably know everything about this. So
well, and what's worse
I'm trying not to believe the hype. I'm trying not to buy into the fear.
Yeah, but for us, the residents, again, who are subject to this water, I mean, the good thing is that we're in between 2, 3 very well-respected oceanographic, environmentally conscious facilities. You got
You can call them liberals, Jonathan.
No, well, you got the aquarium down in Sarasota, the Moat Marine Aquarium, who have actual scientists doing work on red tide and some other things down there. You have the Florida Aquarium, you have the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, so the cool thing is that we do have experts in the area who are going to be able to assess what is really the harm happening here.
I remember, actually, that reminds me, when I was the Republican nominee for House District 59, we went up to Tallahassee and got some policy briefings from different areas, right? And one of them then was from Department of Environmental, DEP, or whatever it is.
DEP?
Yeah, so, and we got these, and the guy that was there briefing us, and with this PowerPoint slide, this is like a smart person,
Right.
And you're going through these slides, and it's pretty technical, you got to slow down as you're reading it. But what was interesting is, there's always been this debate about Lake Okeechobee and what's the answer to this water release, and
Right.
and this scientist that's there explaining this, that works for the water, he basically was like, listen, there's only a couple things you can do. You have to prevent nitrogen runoff from all of the homes that are north of the lake, and you have to do these things, to filter it out. And what he also explained to me was that things were absolutely not as bad as the media and the Democrats made it out to be.
Sure.
Now, granted, this guy's works for the government, but at the same time, government workers tend to not be.
But they
super
wanted to
conservative.
tie it
It's not a
back.
political
They wanted
position.
to tie it back to the sugar industry.
They wanted to tie it back to the sugar industry, and I asked flat out. I was like, "Tell me, what's the deal with this for real? Because I'm tired of hearing about it.
Right.
Is it the sugar?" And they were like, in a non-political way. He was like, "Listen, they're here. They're here. The water is being released here. That's not really the issue, but there are multiple things that can be done. And until those things are done, you're always going to deal." Basically, what he said was, is as long as you have people who have yards, and are putting products on their grass, you're going to have
because they want thicker grass, thinner grass,
exactly.
all that stuff is crap for the environment.
Yeah, exactly. But he said no, it's at safe levels and it's under control, but it's something you have to stay on top of. The point is, he removed away all of this fear mongering, and I'd be willing to bet that there's some smart people out there that understand this phosphate mining that can describe how you can mine for phosphate and do it in a safe way and maintain these things and try to prevent things.
I think what's going to happen is that more eyes are going to be looking at this industry, more regulation in regards to lining to make sure it's even more protected.
I thought the state took over that facility.
Before.
I thought the state took that place
Yeah,
over.
look,
think
in fact,
DeSantis,
I thought the company
last
that
week.
owned it went back.
No, the original company that owned it went bankrupt.
The thing's been there for since the 60s, right?
Yeah.
So, and they haven't been producing out of there for a long time, right? So this thing's
know
just
if
sitting
I
there.
I can't say
I
that.
thought this thing is just sitting there. The original company's long gone, and I thought the state had taken it over somehow. Is
Well,
that
but
not the
again,
case?
to that point, Governor DeSantis, last week, was at a ceremony where they actually, I guess, finished or it was having to do with the old Tamiami Trail, which was basically part of the problem that you were talking about because it blocks the flow of water south through the state.
Right.
And so they're started to dig all that out. And I think eventually it's going to get to Alligator Alley where they're going to elevate all of it so that the water continues to flow.
Can continue to flow. Yeah.
I mean, we're doing things we didn't know in the past. We're trying to figure out now.
Yeah, some of this stuff
I have full confidence that
a lot of this
Florida
stuff was done
organization's
during the
gonna get done.
Eisenhower administration.
Oh yeah. A lot of the roads that were originally built were built in the 50s, before Disney, before Florida was Florida.
Well, and they had all these non-native trees that were planted because they would absorb all that water and they would dry out the land. And they didn't think of the long-term effects of what that would happen.
Well, if you want to hear the history of the phosphate industry, just go on to the comment section and read Hector Gonzalez. He is giving us a play-by-play of all the disasters that's occurred in the past and those that have built it out. Again, I have no doubt that I think this is going to become a larger problem if there is a breach. I don't think there will be a breach. I mean, I hope there isn't a breach, but at the moment they're making comments that they've already reduced it. Where was that number? Oh, it was here, so I'm gonna go. I'm sorry, but it was holding 480 million gallons of water which is a crazy amount, and now it's below 300 million. So they're doing their best to get it, to relieve the pressure as much as possible. But if they've already done the evacuations and everything else, I think there's they know what they're doing. I agree with Joe. I think that they have very smart people on the job, and we'll see how it's a developing story. So we'll see how it continues to go.
Well, on that note, since you've so graciously taken command of the conversation, no, go ahead. We're going to go into Aniebal's attic and tell us about a little drama.
Can I say one more thing? It just hit me. I feel like the Piney Point thing is akin to the sinkhole.
Okay.
It's like sinkholes have existed in Florida a long time. Like people that are from here and live here, they get it, they understand it.
Yeah.
But when the idea of a sinkhole goes like national, people around the country are like, "What? The Earth just opens up and and you just die, like it just sucks everything in." Like I think it's a crazy thing to hear about, and I think that's part of what this is too. It's like what? What's happening? This water is what? And I think it's just kind of like that. It's a shocker until you kind of really dig into it and realize that, there's a science to it, and it'll probably turn out okay, but we just have to.
Aniebal's attic.
We came out of the basement. We came out of the basement.
With floodwaters.
We came out of the
Florida's
We came out of the floodwaters.
Industries.
That's right.
And now we're in the attic to get away from the floodwaters.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought
to get away from Piney Point.
I never thought Aniebal's attic would be the relief of conversation about the minutia, what's happening. But this week in global news, there was a scandal of a royal family, and not the royal family that you would expect and that I would actually follow,
God save the Queen.
but the royal family of one of the most stable Middle East countries in the region, which I really consider that as an oxymoron when it comes to stability in the Middle East. But the Jordanian royal family is having a huge issue at the moment with former Prince Hamza bin Hamzari, I got that completely wrong, and against his half-brother, King Abdullah. Oh my gosh, I'm having a horrible time. The current ruler, accusing the country's leaders of corruption, incompetence, harassment, and nepotism. Again, a former royal crown prince is accusing the current king of nepotism while he's banished to his palace outside the main capital city. It comes after a number of high-level arrests have been said linked to an alleged coup plot. The military earlier denied that the prince was under house arrest, but did say that they're trying to do their best to stabilize the country and keep security. During this huge blow-up that a lot of countries around the Middle East, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and even the United States, came to the reassurance that the current the current monarchies in Jordan have their full support and will continue to have the full support of the U.S. government and other countries around the world. I think it's a big deal that people are really coming so quickly to the defense of the Jordanian royal family and making sure that they're able to have the support of the international community. Right now, they're having huge issues when it comes to their economy and the COVID-19 response that the king himself is trying to ensure that their people are done correctly.
Isn't Jordan connected to the Suez Canal?
Jordan is not connected to the Suez. Technically, no country is connected to the Suez Canal. Egypt has both sides.
Oh, okay, got it.
Israel gave back the.
I was just saying, because then if they've been having a really bad month if that was the case.
Oh yeah, it's been a mess on that side of the country.
King Abdullah is airborne qualified. I believe he's a jump master, and he jumps with soldiers.
Yeah,
really.
He's a soldier.
The king has a lot of support.
King of Jordan is a soldier, and I'm not saying he puts himself in harm's way per se.
You mean like Prince William?
Yeah, but he's
flying helicopters.
No, but King Abdullah is a soldier, and he's respected for that.
Cool.
Yeah, he goes out on airborne jumps.
So the oldest son of the late King Hussein and his favorite wife, Queen Nora, he was named Noor. He was named Crown Prince in Jordan in 1990. I think he had like a lot more than 5 queens. I don't know.
She's his Melania.
But someone is gonna. Wow.
She's his Melania. I think.
I'm surprised he doesn't have multiple. I mean,
I think the past king did have multiple
okay.
queens. Yeah, that's not how it works on this side of town,
right.
Or Utah. However, it was seen as that he was being too young and inexperienced, and they named the successor at the time to be after the king's death. It's almost like the version of what happened in England. Someone abdicated and they get someone else. I think it's fascinating. I love anything that talks about the royal family. That's not Great Britain because they have way too much drama right now. So I think it's interesting to see what's happening with other royal families in a stable Middle East country.
Wow, have you deserted the Brits?
No, I'm always going to have their support. I don't know if I would have been a loyalist or a Union supporter. I haven't made that decision yet. I don't have to. I don't have to either because
a little
I
obvious.
live in this country. But it's interesting to see what other countries are dealing with their internal issues. And you don't expect a coup out of Jordan. You expect it everywhere else in the Middle East, but you don't expect it in Jordan.
That's true. Not out of Jordan. Yeah, they've been pretty stable ever since they realized that they need to not fight Israel. They can get their butts kicked again. Yeah.
They've also been taking a lot of refugees from Syria.
Yeah, ever since they gave up on trying to fight Israel, everything's been good over in Jordan for the most part.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
We'll see what happens.
All right, thank you, Anibal. And let's go into today's final topic of the day, which really not a new story, but just an ongoing story with some minimal development. And we felt that it was kind of a juicy, meaty way to kind of wrap up today's show, which is, of course, Matt Gaetz continues to be embroiled in controversy, despite all of the rumors that were already going around about him. There continues to be. I mean, you would almost think he's running for president. I mean, because this is the kind of thing that happens in a presidential election.
It starts off with one. Have more come out?
Yeah, exactly. You have one issue, and then two,
15,
and then like all of a sudden just
Here comes
snowballing.
And then Gloria Allred's giving a news conference.
Yeah.
If you see Gloria Allred, I'm just like.
And now they're talking about stuff he did in the Florida House. And
she
now
never sticks around. She makes the interview. She does the presentation of the woman, and then she never does anything after that. She's become a joke. She's become a complete joke.
If I see Gloria Allred, I'm done. I turn it off. I'm like, whatever you say. I'm sorry, your client. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hear it.
But now it's gotten to the fact where now they're even digging into his Florida House days.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the things that they talk about, I don't know.
The allegations.
I don't know.
Do we want to talk about?
Let's call Mike Pence and just ask him, sir, how would you handle this?
I would say, sir. No.
He has to see these things pop up and like, see, I told you guys. I tried to tell you. Nobody wanted to listen. You made fun of me.
But we know. I mean, from the people we know that go to Tallahassee, and certainly from some of the stories that have broken out of there, that there's promiscuity. There's a lot of sleeping around. That there's a lot of that kind of activity going on because again,
I don't know anything what you're talking about whatsoever.
They're accusing him of providing financial support of whatever that means.
That's the main thing.
No.
To a 17-year-old.
Right. No. That's the main thing.
They're bringing a 17-year-old down to Florida, and he was probably 30 at the time. Like, I don't know. It seems.
But he's wealthy.
Well,
so
no. Do they actually have a person identified as a 17-year-old at that time? In regards to
did they ever?
Supposedly,
well, the person's an adult
person
now.
is legitimate.
I think
it's the reasons under which.
When Matt Gaetz said he had never dated anyone that was 17 years old, I'm like, you never?
Well,
when you were 17, you didn't date anyone?
Well, no. Well,
I know what he's trying to say because I agree. That's a pretty big deal.
Well, one of his statements was basically, this didn't happen. I cherish all my past relationships, but I'm getting ready to get married. And I read that. I was like, cherish is a pretty strong word, but I took that to be his way of saying, hey, listen, guys, this instance didn't happen. I'm denying this, and I was single once. And for anybody that I dated in the past, hey, that was then. It didn't work out, but
Yeah, but that again, that's a really weird way to excuse the fact that there was money involved somehow.
But I don't think but he says
he's just saying that's not the case.
Said what he says, and I think what he's mentioning is like, look, if I'm dating someone or I have a relationship with someone, I'm going to pay for their flight. I'm going to pay for their dinner. I'm going to pay for the hotel. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think he's saying, listen, I mean, if I was dating somebody and I paid for things, like that wasn't.
Yeah.
But to that same token,
I'm not trying to defend the guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
None of us know.
And I'll say this: if the allegations are true that Matt Gaetz was in a knowing relationship with a 17-year-old, then throw the book off with his head. However, if they're trying to conjecture something here, which is there, then that's a whole nother conversation. The allegation of there being someone trying to get
that's
money
the
out of
twist.
his family, yeah.
But that's the twist.
Who
now.
would have
so
thought
then
that?
Where does this turn
yeah,
left?
Yeah, then his dad's wearing a wire on behalf of the FBI, and the FBI's acknowledged that he's not the target of investigation, but is part of the investigation, whatever.
Subject.
And I'm like,
He's
or
subject.
subject
He's not the
of
target, but
he's
he's
not
the
target,
subject.
He's the subject of the investigation. So his dad's wearing a wire.
I don't get the difference.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
believe.
I don't think there really is that big
Yeah,
of a
so they
difference.
think they're getting extorted. So his dad's wearing a wire for the FBI at meetings, and supposedly, as Matt Gaetz said on Tucker Carlson's show, he said that literally like the next day or two, before the article dropped in New York Times or whoever dropped it, that before that dropped, literally the next day or two, a payment was going to take place from, I guess, his father to this guy, which would have been
entrapment.
That's when like the FBI raids, right? Like, you took the money, right? So like apparently the next day they were going to do the thing.
Okay.
And it was going to create, it was going to solidify the case against these extortionists, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then he's named this individual. He's named these people. Yeah, he named them on national TV. And then afterwards, this McGee guy, whoever comes out and says, oh, none of that's true, and Matt Gaetz just lying, and I'm like, what is going on here? Are these things even related?
I'll say this.
Like, are they even related?
The Hill has done a great job being very, very like black and white of this. They're like, there's 4 ways to interpret this. Either Matt Gaetz is lying and he did have a relationship, and again, there can be, both stories can be correct.
Right.
That there is an allegation and there's extortion, or they're both lying, one's lying, the other. Like, there's only 4 possibilities in this conversation.
So when you hear 17-year-old, the first time, it's like, okay, are we talking about a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old or a 20-year-old? Like, what are we talking about here? But no, Matt Gaetz would have been, at that time, he was in the Florida House. He's 38 now.
Right. Yeah.
So he's only been in Congress 4 years. That's 34. So he got elected and was in the State House for what, 4 to 6 years? Right. So he would have been like 32 to 36 years old. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about a 36-year-old with a 17-year-old? Yeah, dude, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
Like, that's a problem.
And
I don't care where she went.
Extorted.
I don't care where she went, where she came from, or who's extorting you. I mean, if somebody knows that you were 36 or whatever, and you were like hooking up with a 17-year-old, they probably
if you
are.
Knowingly hooked up with a 17-year-old.
They probably are extorting.
Well,
you.
that's what the issue is, right? Exactly. The fact that both of these can be true.
Both of these can be.
He could have been dating an underage girl and being extorted
and being extorted for the information. Somebody in Tallahassee knew what you did, so they're extorting you for it. You're turning them into the FBI, but in the process.
Well, again,
you're having
the simple fact that the news article came out the day before they were supposed to do the entrapment, I think, is very strategic in one way or the other. Also, the fact that we're still getting more information about this, it was probably a rush job by, I think, the New York Times that released this article out into the ether.
It's sad. It's sad that now you see something come out like this and you're like, okay, wait a minute. Matt Gaetz is a nationally recognized politician, probably running for something in the next couple of years, maybe running for president in the future. So here you've got the entire Democratic caucus in the House of Representatives that would love to see him go away. And what people often forget, there's probably a number of Republicans that would like to see him go away.
Sure.
So when you're popular like that and you're a lieutenant of Trump, then you're going to have a lot of people coming for you.
Right.
So is that what this is? Is it politics? Is it extortion? Is there sexual assault? Which actually that would be statutory rape or something, right? Like, I mean, actually that's like real, like for real sexual assault. Or is it all 3, or is it none of it? I don't know.
But it just adds to a lot of the oddities that surround Matt Gaetz, With again, like the the adoption of this young adult male, especially as a single guy.
Wasn't that the son of? Isn't that the son of a past girlfriend or something?
I think there's
there's
some correlation there. Yes.
And then he just decides to adopt.
But still, for a young single male to adopt another male.
Yeah. I mean, you hate to be negative about something, but I know when that first came out, I was like, what? You did what?
Especially if you're a public figure. I mean, you got to know that's.
No, I mean, adoption's great. That's wonderful. If he was able to act as in a father role, and maybe this was when the kid, because I think when I learned about it, the kid was like 19 and going to college.
Right.
Now, maybe this happened when he was 12.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, maybe maybe he was actually a kid when Matt came into his life, and maybe he decided to adopt or whatever. But
Right.
but then why would you not? But then why would that also not even be known? Like why did people like surprise learn, and then he gets to say, oh yeah, of course. I mean, like what? Like I just don't understand the whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
also
what-
the timing. I'm like, again, this allegation was sprung up during the Trump administration, so it wasn't like this is a Democrat hit piece in regards
one?
to
With this girl?
the allegations of the 17-year-old.
Yeah, but no, that was just.
Those
but
came
to
up.
Johnny's
that
point,
came
Just
up
the past month.
But to
no,
Johnny's
no, no,
point,
no,
it's just,
that's
it's
not
just
true.
one more weird
We are
thing.
just now hearing about it.
Right,
This
right.
was started. This investigation by the FBI was started during the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Oh, the investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think the fact that the timing is very weird. Because we all know he's going to run for
Well,
something.
but see, the investigation was launched into the extortion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that makes him the subject of it.
Right,
Right.
right.
No. The
Yeah, I mean,
investigation
he's-
started by his friend who was a tax collector in Citrus County.
Oh, that's right, because he's got the friend or the colleague or whatever
colleague.
who's for real going down
Yes.
for like, who's for real going down for some kind of sexual.
Hector, find us the name
yeah.
for that one.
No, there's
he
that
was
other guy.
he was a tax
Yeah.
collector for one of the interior counties.
Yeah. There's another guy, former public official, or whether they're elected or not, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's going down for like some sex-related crimes, and then I think he implicated.
I don't think he
Matt.
implicated. I think they were friends and close friends, and they were trying to cast a wider net. It hasn't been said that he gave up Matt Gaetz.
So he didn't turn.
I don't
Okay.
think. I haven't read that he has turned yet or not.
To Johnny's point though, here's what doesn't make sense. It just
Seminole County. Thank you, Hector.
the way these things happen just kind of seem odd. It doesn't even make
Yeah.
sense. Like if
Right.
I adopted a child, you wouldn't learn about that like 10 years later.
No.
Sure.
Like I mean, like you would know if
Especially
I
as a politician, like you,
if-
and we joke about these things.
Yeah,
like we try
like,
to make sure that
I
what
would-
we're saying, because we know 20 years from now it's going to be in a Senate hearing.
Like, if-
God forbid something happens.
Yeah, I mean, if I was an elected official and I adopted someone, it wouldn't matter whether I adopted a brand new baby or whether I adopted a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Which at the
I mean,
time, I think this guy was in
you
his
would-
late teens.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and-
Yeah, I
but
don't.
like,
I,
why? But why would you not? Why would you like learn about this years and years later? Like, if
Right.
you're Matt Gaetz, wouldn't you be like, hey, everybody,
hide it?
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in Tally this weekend, and my son, I got an adopted son for y'all that don't know, but he's gonna be hanging out with me. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
why-
because
why
anybody
would
who was close
why
to
would it
him
be a secret?
has said that this guy had been around for years.
Yes.
And
Yeah, he'd always
had
been
given them
around.
like different titles and different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just odd.
and again, we're
It
gonna
just doesn't make sense.
we're gonna see eventually the FBI are going to have to respond and release all the cards of what they have. It has to be done now.
Sure.
But again, in regards to who would want to do this, Matt Gaetz has made a lot of enemies on the Hill. He is not someone that he is very braggadocious. He's not someone that holds punches. A lot of Republicans on the Hill don't like him that much because they feel that he kind of skipped the line when it came to what he was doing and
Could
he was
this
able
be
to
about
get.
like the speaker's race or something?
I don't think it's
could
a speaker's
Could this be
race.
about a leadership position in,
always
in
that.
2 years when the
you
Republicans take over
seen-
the House? When the Republicans take
when,
over the House,
when they will take over the House.
the Republicans are going to take over the House. It's right around the corner.
That's always a possibility.
Matt Gaetz is a prominent figure. You got Trump,
I mean, it's not even just a speakership;
in the
it's
background.
committee positions.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
so literally, I mean, Matt Gaetz could be in a position to
Right.
be chairing a major committee, and so you could have people within leadership currently, or within minority leadership currently, that are like, hey, this guy is a threat. Trump's going to be calling us. We're going to have to give him something, and we don't want to.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's gonna be fun. Again, he's the representative for the Panhandle. That's never going blue, so we have no worries about that. Losing that. I don't think he should resign or remove himself from any positions until the evidence is issued and that there is something for him to actually be judged based on, so that there can be a case to move forward.
So there was one thing about the Tucker Carlson interview, which everybody else thought was like so odd, and I was like, well, I don't know that it was odd. I mean, he was just telling his story, but there was one thing that stood out to me. He tried to use the example of going out to dinner and like paying, and Matt Gaetz is still single, and I mean he now is engaged, but for years he's been single, and he used that example, and I guess him and Tucker, or supposedly they had been at a dinner together or something, which wouldn't be uncommon, I guess.
Correct.
And Matt Gaetz references that. He's like, you remember, I mean, there's the time, that we were out to dinner together, and and I had a woman with me, and of course I'm gonna pay for dinner, and then Tucker was like, yeah, no, I don't remember that.
Tucker was very smart.
Tucker was like,
Very
he was
smart.
like, no, yeah, just later he just says it in passing. Later he's like, yeah, actually, I don't remember that dinner, but, you know, and then goes on, and Matt Gaetz doesn't flinch or nothing, and I just thought it was weird. I'm like, bro, he just said that y'all went to dinner together and that he had someone with him and you had your spouse and there were other people,
Right.
and then you just said that you didn't. So that, to me, I was
Tucker
like,
did the right thing.
so
if he doesn't remember, he doesn't
Tucker
remember.
trying to distance himself and be like, nah,
Of
bro, don't
course.
pull me into
Of
this.
course he was.
Don't pull me into this. Or did he not? And did Matt Gaetz literally just drop his name and like...
Yeah,
Matt
which I
Gaetz
don't
was
think he'd
looking
do
for
that.
a
Which I don't
vote. Was
think he
trying to
would.
look. Matt Gaetz was trying to look for some help, and
Yeah, he was
wasn't
looking
going
for
to get
some
it.
help.
He wasn't going to get
That's
it from
right,
Tucker.
and-
Tucker is too smart
And
to be
Tucker was
thrown
like,
into
yeah,
that.
actually, I don't recall that. I was like, damn. Man.
I only eat a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea. I'm a
Oh
good
my
Southern boy.
gosh. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Please remember to like, follow, subscribe. And I wanted to say a quick hello again to anybody who I may have run into today over at Hotel Haya here in Ybor. We got to see a lot of familiar faces. Got to see Art and Mary Wood, Stanley Gloucester,
What was the
Mark
event?
Proctor.
What was the event?
Senator Rubio was in town doing
Oh,
the Capitol Hill
yeah,
update.
okay.
Travis, shout out to our buddy Travis, Bullhorn Communications here in the bunker, who had some hands in coordinating that today. Got to see my buddy Brian Wright and Taylor Sanchez, who both work at Senator Rubio's office, and it was just cool. That's when it really hit me, like how much COVID has really had an effect on us, because I haven't seen these people in probably 2 years. And that's when it really hits you. It's like, wow, I haven't seen these people in a really long time, especially when some of these faces, we would see them every week or every other week. And so it was kind of cool to run into everybody. The DeBoers, Bob and Becky,
Oh, I love
they were
them.
there. Yeah. Some particularly good friends of ours. Jeannie Webb was there. Debbie Tamargo, chairwoman
Tamargo
of
was
the
there.
Florida
Yes,
Federation of
she was.
Republican Women. I know I'm name dropping at this point, but it was really good to see
To
everybody.
us, it's not name right.
It felt good. No, it just felt good, after just
like the
all this
band was
COVID
back.
stuff.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it
Felt
felt
like the band is back together. Yeah, the band
I
is
love
exactly.
the DeBoers. The DeBoers are awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and Cliff
I thought they
Curry,
moved.
Cliff
Cliff
and
Curry.
Colton were hanging out too.
Debbie
so-
moved. The DeBoers are still in Carrollwood.
Oh.
Yeah, Debbie's in Pasco, but the Bowers are still here in Hillsborough.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I thought the board.
So, all right, we're going to close out the show as we are now trying to make it a habit of with one last thing, which is the story that we are watching that we didn't quite get to discuss today. All right, so we'll kick this off, as always,
I
with
have a good
Anibal
one.
David Cabrera.
I have a good one. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I might be stealing yours actually.
Take us into the chimney or wherever we go. The attic, through the attic, into the chimney. Take us there.
So
I live in the basement.
I am watching the soon-to-be changing borders of the Ukraine as Russia continues to build up its
They're
military
invading.
forces around the our Ukrainian borders. It is a country that really should not be a country, honestly. It has very little defensible borders. Russia's already taking Crimea and some other places, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a huge escalation in the Baltic area of Europe. The NATO has already said that they're going to start negotiating to try to figure out a way to keep the Kremlin from taking Kiev. So that's what I'm looking for.
They're going to encroach on that country until they're like, well, we're already here now.
Yeah.
Well, they're all here, so
late.
why not just change the name?
Right.
Russia.
Yeah.
That sounds like a name, That's what's going to happen.
It's going to keep on. The Russians don't like. Again, there are only two really
This
soft
is
spots
happening
of
because
Russia.
Biden's president. That's the only reason why Russia's doing what they're doing. Just like they took Crimea when it was Obama because they knew he was weak. They're taking over the rest of Ukraine now because they know Biden's weak and not going to do anything.
Well,
NATO
because
needs
that
to
was the
step up.
thing. Even though I truly don't think Trump had it in him, like to a certain extent, to like jump the gun. I think pressed enough, he would have gone for it, right?
Yeah.
But
At a minimum, Trump would have sent them weapons.
But the
and said, we're going to
perception-
give them all the weapons.
No,
It
they
but
would
the
want."
have said,
perception-
"I'm sending them weapons."
Yeah.
no, and the perception was that Trump was unpredictable.
That's right.
Right, and
that's
unstable.
Right. So let's not
right?
mess with him.
Yeah. So it's like we don't know what Trump's going to do.
Because if he says it, he might do it. We don't know. But what they know about Biden is that he ain't doing jack.
Right.
He's not doing anything.
And that's
He's
the crazy.
not going
That's the
to.
crazy part about foreign policy
going
is
to.
like, as Trump, no matter what people say, if he was an agent of Russia or anything else, but one crazy man knows another crazy man. And at the end of the day, they're not going to fight each other because they know they're going to be holding it. And that's even why the North Korea situation was so popular, because one crazy man knows another crazy man, and they ain't gonna do anything.
Putin knew enough about Trump to stay put.
To just
stay
chill
put.
out.
Yeah.
Chill out. I got 4 years, maybe 8. Just chill and see how things go. Remember, when Trump got, even I was like a little nervous about it when North Korea was acting up and Trump got on TV and said if they launch a weapon or whatever at Japan or whatever it was, they will face a level of fire and fury that they have never seen before. Look, when the president of the United States says that publicly, he's telling you that we can send bombers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of our lives if we have to. And so you need to chill. And what ended up happening? We ended up having conversations with North Korea.
And everything.
They ended up having conversations. Why? Because Trump let them know, like you have a choice. We can go. Which way you want to handle this? You want to invite me over for coffee, or what are we going to do? And he put it out there, and everybody calmed down.
Well, and then we could literally wipe them off the map.
You can either have a bloody nose, or we can have a dinner.
Because people, because we have it easy in America, and we live a very nice life.
Compared to the rest of the world.
Compared to the rest of the world.
Very nice.
Very safe, right? We really have no neighbors to the north, south, and we got that are going to invade us, and we have oceans to the east and west. So we're very secure over here. The rest of the world doesn't live that way. So the rest of the world understands one thing and one thing only, and that's force. And if you can bring force, they negotiate with you. And if you can't bring force, they do not negotiate with you. And the last thing I'm going to say about that is Biden's weakness in general invites aggression. And one's weakness will invite aggression. And when you're dealing with people like Russia and China and North Korea and the Middle East, lots of people, a lot of these countries, if you show them weakness, you are inviting aggression, and I think that's what we're seeing because Joe Biden's falling down the stairs while they're getting in the tanks.
And we've seen this in the past by other administrations. There's a reason why they sent the Navy around the world to show countries, look, we got the bullets and we got the guns and we got the machinery. We can do it. We're going to diplomacy, but we're going to carry around the biggest stick
to show you that we have the ability to do it.
The world doesn't understand. A lot of Americans don't understand how the rest of the world.
You're talking about when Teddy Roosevelt did that?
Exactly. And that's what a lot of Americans don't understand of what foreign policy really means and understands. The reason why you're only paying $2.80. We think it's expensive, $2.85 for a gallon of gas. The fact is, some other countries that have oil in their countries, literally coming out of the ground, are paying $8, $9. And the reason why that is because they have no stability. There's no market whatsoever. The fact that we are keeping the world stable and allows us to enjoy the freedoms and the amenities that we have in this country. And people don't understand how fragile that really is.
All right, so I'm excited to tell you what I'm watching. And I think you guys need to watch it. I think everybody needs to get in on this. Okay? It's right here in Florida, right here in Central Florida. It's a little company called Metro State. And it's run by a guy named Jeremy DeWitt. And you need to look this guy. First of all, he's a poser, stolen valor, and he's just a loser, okay? But I got to give him credit, though. He's putting all his stuff on video now. The bottom line is this. He doesn't try to say that he's a police officer, but if you look at what he does, he clearly poses, and his company does funeral escorts all throughout Orlando, and he's on video telling people, "Get out of my funeral," and people are like, "You're not a cop, screw you," and it's and there's all of this conflict. So the police are getting called. The police have started pulling him over, and the things that he's doing though are legal. So like he's a felon. I don't know what he did exactly, but he's a convicted sex offender too.
Oh wow!
And so he's a convicted felon. He can't have a weapon. He carries a pepper ball gun,
yes,
which is legal. and he does all these things to piss off the cops, right?
Sure.
And they keep messing with him. Well, now it's to the point to where they've messed with him so much that he's getting arrested. The judge is throwing stuff out. The judge is telling the defense attorney, like, you need to have a conversation. Like, you guys need to talk about this.
Right.
The lawyer for, like, Orange County, whoever it is like writing letters to the cops saying, listen, the uniform is not illegal. The patrol cars and patrol motorcycles are not illegal. His paintball, his pepper ball gun is not
running like a glorified security company.
Yes, yes. That's exactly what it is. But now he's trolling them. He's got all this on video, and now they've suspended one of these police officers because the police officer
gosh.
tries to act like he doesn't know him and say, put the
Yeah.
gun down. Like the cop had his gun drawn on this
wow.
dude. So now this is just playing out on and now he's vlogging. Now he's got his channel. And at first, when you start watching this, and he was on Dr. Phil.
Sure.
And at first, when you watch this,
Dr. Phil.
at first when you watch this guy, you're like, this dude's an idiot. He's got what's coming to him. But then you start realizing that the government is like these cops are like doing dirty stuff. Like they're looking for him. They're pulling him over without probable cause. They're drawing their guns on him.
Because they've caused now he's caused them a lot of
He's
trouble.
making them look bad, and they know who he is. They call him by name and then say they don't know who he is, and that's why they had to draw their... I mean, so now they've suspended a police officer over this. They're doing an investigation. Now he's giving statements. I think he's suing. It's all on video now, and he keeps posting all these videos. It's the weirdest thing. Now he's got merchandise that says Metro State. It's the weirdest thing, and I was on one of his videos, and I'm looking at the comments, and people are like, "Bro, you have to do a Netflix special." Like,
I was gonna say that.
and it's
Like a Tiger King.
It's not as crazy as Tiger King, but it's getting there.
Sure, yeah.
And he's like this. He's like this. You know, he's just this white guy or whatever, and you look at him and you think that he's like I don't know. I don't even want to get all into it. But the other day it came out that he's Muslim too, and so it's just the whole 9 yards. You know,
Sure.
it's just the crazy just continues, and I see this guy becoming a millionaire because he's going to sue the cities and counties because these cops keep messing with him. And the more he wins, the more pissed off they get. So it's
Orange County is a blue county,
his
or purple
name
county.
His name
Well,
is
Florida's going to Florida, you know.
Yeah, and Florida's going to Florida. I mean,
Florida.
he's true Florida man. This guy's true Florida. Oh, and he's call sign Motor One. You know, he's got a call sign, and his followers are like little motors or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy, but check it out. Metro State. He's on YouTube. Watch some of the videos. Watch the Dr. Phil skit. He's a poser. But it's a crazy story.
Also, enjoy the comment section. People are talking about Hunter Biden. People are talking about making sure they go in the DL. Someone's talking about drugs and meth canes. Explains this all. I don't know what's happening.
The troll of all trolls.
Well, for me, I've got to say there was a story that came out. Didn't get a lot of attention, but I was amused by it because Buckhorn, decided to resurface and poke his head out from the darkness because they want to put up Publix apparently in the East River, like Tampa community there, which was bulldozed under his administration. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of families that were displaced because it was affordable housing. It was not affordable housing, but projects basically that had been.
You mean New Soho or North Soho?
No. I mean,
Yeah,
no, we're talking
I'm
about like
having a
right
hard time
there,
figuring out.
right there where it's all being redeveloped now, right by Eulalie, on the other side of the river.
Yeah,
On the
okay.
other side of the river.
On the east side of the river or the west side of the
On the
river?
east
gonna
side.
be
I'm
on-
sorry, on
it's
the
gonna be
west
the
side
west
of
side
the
of the
river.
river.
Yeah, it is the west side of the river.
West side of the river, south of Columbus.
But they're trying to make it out, and what's amusing about the story is that they're trying to make it out. They're like, let's put a Publix in there, as if like the Publix was like the savior to any great neighborhood or something like that. Where again, they don't realize that all they're going to do is gentrify the area.
Oh, yeah.
The minute you throw a Publix in there, and again, all of this is city housing or city projects that were demolished because they were dilapidated and they were dangerous and it was crime ridden. And now they're rebuilding it in like these brand new apartments, okay, which is fine because we need that type of housing, but the fact is again, they don't realize that the minute you drop in something like a Publix, that's going to bring in a whole different demographic and push out the very people that these areas are supposed to serve.
Well, the sad thing is that that's actually one, and we can't go all into this, but that's one of the negative side effects of the whole concept of affordable housing and public housing is that what you end up with is you end up with a bunch of people, you end up with an entire community that doesn't own their land.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so every person that's there, if they would have owned their own home, okay, they would now be able to sell that home for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Sure.
And Publix coming in would be a boon for them.
Yeah.
It would raise their property values. And if you wanted to stay, you just stay. And if you want to leave, you sell and you have generational wealth. But one of the negative consequences of public housing is oh, look, it'll be a cheap place for people to live. Yeah, but then they never own anything.
Yeah.
And so then the story becomes, oh, you're kicking out all these poor people. Well, if they own their home, it wouldn't even matter if it was a tiny little bungalow. I mean, you own something like that in a developing area of Tampa, and you're selling for a couple $100,000.
I think
easy.
Yeah, and the second
And
biggest
it
problem is
changes
that,
your life.
and those communities that were planned, I'm probably gonna say in the 70s and probably 60s, are very definitive as Section 8 housing.
Right.
When you have these new developments, when it comes to affordable housing, off of 22nd Street and Hillsborough, that are actually, they look phenomenal. There's a police station in the middle of it. There's rec centers. It doesn't look like an affordable housing community.
Right.
It looks like a community in West Chase. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's just the houses, instead of there being one family in a house, there's like 3 or 4 families in a pretty big sized house. So they thought about what it looked, trees, boulevard. It looks nice compared to what some like Robles Park is. It needs to be redone, but the fact that they're doing it and the way that the city of Tampa has done it in the past, you really just bulldozed it, moved all those people out into Riverview, Brandon, and the outskirts of Tampa because they couldn't afford the rents here in the city.
Yep.
That's all you've done.
Well, then the problem is that the city thinks that they know best how to run those properties or those communities, when in fact, if they had actually allowed for private management, those communities might actually still be inhabitable.
Yeah.
You know, but the fact is that because the city and the county government thinks that they know best how to run it, those communities, that housing has just, been run down due to lack of maintenance and lack of care.
And if you think about it, affordable housing, just ends up being owned by different people. So all that's happening is that the owners of those properties are selling. The only question is who gets to keep the money.
Yeah.
And the answer with government housing or subsidized housing is that the owners are major developers, major landowners, whereas if everybody just owned their home and it was their condo or their whatever, if they owned it, then they would be keeping it.
I think that's a really key point, is that giving someone the ownership. I don't really have a problem if the state is going to create the housing and give fractional ownership to those individuals. So then there's some skin in the game. I think that's the big thing, skin in the game.
Let them make payments and then turn it over and say now you make payments, your home.
If you live here for 15 years,
Yeah.
then hey, it's yours.
Yeah, pay this and turn it over, and then you have a home. And in 20 years from now, if that community is bustling and blowing up, and people are moving in, and people start offering you hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's generational wealth, and they don't give you that. So that's why the government will never give you enough to actually get ahead. They'll only give you enough to keep you voting Democrat.
The way the war on poverty is fought in this country is absolutely obscene.
It keeps you down. It keeps you poor.
It's meant to keep people down.
It keeps you poor.
It really is. And again, these are topics that we could talk about for a lot longer.
Because if you do well, they kick you out. Because you do well, they kick you out of housing. Or if you're a woman who marries the man, they kick you out.
And if they kicked you out, that meant that they didn't need those monies, and then they would get less money to do that type of work.
Right.
And so then they would be basically cutting themselves out of a job.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about we didn't. I mean, we don't.
We could.
We didn't even talk about really Delta being woke or MLB being woke. We didn't really talk about the woke.
We talked about MLB.
We talked about
we
MLB.
didn't talk about
because they're trying to be like the NBA.
We didn't really talk about the wokeism.
football.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
did.
Yeah.
What is going to be interesting is to see if that Delta thing happens.
What is Delta threatening?
Well, Delta, has a major hub in Atlanta, and so the legislature is going to rescind their tax breaks
It
for
should
coming out against their bill.
I think they need to do it, and this is coming from somebody who, my dad retired from Delta, my mom still gets the pension. I want Delta to do well. But corporations need to stay out of these political fights. You just don't win.
Right.
And you alienate half your customers.
Because now you look hypocritical that you're
They
more
look
than
stupid.
you're more than willing.
You're flying to Shanghai. You're flying right over literally, you are flying over the concentration camps as you come in from Europe, and you fly into China.
Disney was saying thank you to the Chinese government.
And you're alienating half
Disney
your
was saying
population.
thank you to the Chinese government for providing security in the region that they're having concentration camps. Again, never going to happen again.
So it's
it's hypocritical.
Stay out of it.
Yeah.
Also,
China allowed them to film a movie in that part of the region.
Also,
in that
you
region
took
of the
out
country.
the songs in Mulan. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? This is the reason why people don't like you.
If you're all companies like Delta should be doing is saying that we want to provide the absolute best customer service we can, the best flying experience as you as you fly Delta through the friendly skies
Yeah.
or whatever. That should be their statement for everything. Like we don't have anything to do with that. We just want you to fly the friendly skies, fly Delta jets. That's it. That's all it should say.
All right.
Don't get into politics.
Well, you heard it here first. Keep flying Spirit, people.
They make you pay to land. You know? They hit you up at the last minute. Oh, by the way,
Yeah, at least they're transparent.
We're going to
about
cut
it.
off the oxygen
they
if you don't pay another
charge you a la
10%.
carte. They hit you for everything.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching The Yard Sign. We appreciate you. Make sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe us on all of our social media platforms. You can find us just about anywhere. You can also find the audio version of the podcast over at the Tech Overlords at Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. There we go. You can carry the audio portion of the show on any of those platforms. Thank you again, Joe Wicker and Abel David Cabrera. We're at a minute 30, so
Why you gotta have 3 names?
starting late
Spanish.
and running long as always. But thank you everybody for watching The Yard Sign. We'll see you back here next week. So long.
Bah, bah, bah.